The NBA is in a weird dynamic where they have a lot of money coming in due to the new TV deal, which is raising the cap for every team each season. Which is why you see top players getting paid even more money per year, and it's not going to stop with players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And it's going to keep rising until top players are getting $70 million annually and so on, since the business side of the NBA is doing so well. But from a competitive standpoint, I think the NBA is struggling as there's been so many blowouts this past season. And I'm not only talking about the bad teams like the Trailblazers, who lost by 60 points twice in that season. It doesn't stop with the struggling teams, as even the good teams are losing by 30 or more, causing fans to tune out way before the game ends since it's not competitive at that point. Fans are just starting to get bored with the product in general, but I don't think it's only from a competitive standpoint. Another problem is the difference of skill in each conference, the 82-game season, all the constant injuries and resting from players, and even the game itself with all the soft calls and constant stoppage of play, but that's a whole nother problem in itself. Now, I specifically want to talk about the teams and more importantly, the conference alignment, because I think there's a few things that could be done to the NBA that can make it more exciting again. And first is what they've been planning the past couple of years, and that's an expansion. So to quickly explain what an expansion team is, it involves an ownership group that makes a bid for a brand new team, and this will involve them creating a brand new organization that includes a front office and coaching staff. After hiring all the roles necessary, this would lead to an expansion draft made up of role players, veterans, and young unproven players from other NBA rosters. And with the recent news of the NBA expanding, Las Vegas and Seattle are the likely destinations as the NBA is more familiar with both cities. First with Las Vegas, as they hold the NBA Summer League and the new NBA Cup, as well as Seattle due to them being a former NBA team as the Seattle Supersonics. But the ownership group decided to move the Supersonics to Oklahoma City in 2008, causing Seattle to be without NBA basketball for almost 20 years now. Though the Supersonics still have a strong fan base to this day, and groups have expressed interest in the past couple of years of owning an NBA team in Seattle, which the NBA have taken a notice to. So with these two teams going to the Western Conference, I was thinking about adding another expansion team, evening out the conferences. So the thought was adding one or two more expansion teams to the East, but once learning how bad the alignments are of the conferences in general, it'd be better to add one more team to the Western Conference instead. And that'd be an old spot that the NBA knows a little bit about, and that's Vancouver. Vancouver initially had a team in the Grizzlies back in 1995, where they played in Vancouver for 7 years before the team was moved to Memphis. This was because of the lack of team success, causing low ticket sales, and for the ownership, they were losing a lot of money by the end of their run. Now I know what you're thinking, why Vancouver? They had a bad team and bad market in their first run. Why would the NBA want to possibly risk that type of problem again? The first reason is due to the location of Vancouver. This gives the NBA the chance to rearrange the divisions within the conferences. Some teams in the West are really closer to the Eastern Conference teams, and I have 3 teams in mind that could make that move to the East. But before I go into those teams, I'm going to answer the other question for Vancouver, which is why they would succeed compared to their first run. This is because the NBA knew its mishandling of Vancouver and was very regretful about it. So now Vancouver is a completely different market from where it was at in the early 2000s compared to now. And with the NBA becoming more popular in Canada due to the Raptors' success and recent championship in 2019, this would now make Vancouver thrive in a better market to host NBA basketball in the future, as the last time a game was held in Vancouver was in the 2023 preseason with a sold-out arena. So now with the 3 teams I've picked in Las Vegas, Seattle, and Vancouver, now goes the realignment plan. And this would start with 2 Western Conference teams moving to the East to even out the conferences. And the 3 teams I have in mind is the Minnesota Timberwolves, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Memphis Grizzlies. The Timberwolves is the first team to move to the East, and it was an easy choice due to how close Minnesota is to the rest of the Central Division. Now for the Pelicans and the Grizzlies, they both have the same distance from Southwest Divisional teams and Southeast Divisional teams. And even from a team standpoint, the Pelicans and the Grizzlies are both very similar, where they're young playoff teams with young superstars that have been a little controversial in the last few years. So this means we would now have 17 teams in the East and 16 teams in the West. This includes 3 new teams in the West, as well as 2 playoff contending teams from the West moving to the East. And with the Timberwolves and the Pelicans moving, that means there's going to be more parity within the Eastern Conference. And if anybody's thinking that the West is going to be weaker due to the realignment plan, that won't be the case, because if this idea were to happen this upcoming season, the West would still have 10 playoff contenders competing for a playoff spot. This would include a young and improving Rockets team that almost got into the play-in last season, as well as the Warriors, who will always have a chance with Steph Curry and Draymond playing, as well as the Kings, who have improved their team as well in the offseason. So the Western Conference is still as strong as ever after these changes. So in this new NBA, I would have the Minnesota Timberwolves in the Central Division and the New Orleans Pelicans in the Southeast Division. And with the Pelicans moving to the Southeast, I'll move the Washington Wizards to the Atlantic Division, as they're closer to all the Atlantic teams compared to the Southeast Division teams. Now for the Western Conference, the Las Vegas team would be added to the Pacific Division, while Vancouver and Seattle would go to the Northwest Division. But due to the Pelicans going to the East, I'd need to move a Western Conference team to the Southwest Division, and what better team than the OKC Thunder, who is very close to 3 Texas-based teams in the Southwest Division. Also, with these 3 teams added, this could lead the NBA into having less than 82 games in the regular season, as that would lead to less injuries overall, and due to the addition to the 3 teams, this could still lead to more profit for the NBA, with more games played overall for 33 teams compared to only 30. So overall, with this whole plan in mind, the thought would be that players would have less games played and less traveling, leading to healthier players, and this would also lead to teams sitting out their star players less in certain games or back-to-backs. So with the additions of adding new NBA teams, as well as balancing the conferences, this would lead to a more competitive NBA, which is what every NBA fan wants at the end of the day. And the expansion of the NBA doesn't end with those 3 teams I mentioned today, obviously, as there's other cities that can get an NBA team, like the Wizards wanting to move to Virginia, bringing back New Jersey, as well as the NBA even thinking about expanding to Mexico City. So please let me know which city you guys think should have an NBA team, or an idea to make the NBA better for fans watching. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.